Some have tried to live here in the isolated, rugged, and beautiful Kolob canyons, but little evidence remains of their attempts. In Zion National Park's northwest corner, narrow canyons cut into the Colorado Plateau, forming 2,000-foot-high walls. The summer rains bring flash floods, shaping the rock. In fall, color explodes. Winter blankets the canyons. And in spring, the cycle of life and growth begins again. Long ago, ancestral Native Americans hunted here. Today, the Southern Paiute consider this part of their traditional homeland. In 1776, Spanish explorers Dominguez and Escalante described the area in their journals. Around the 1850s, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, known as Mormons, established towns in southern Utah. They built Fort Harmony in the open valley, and every day they could gaze at what they called the lofty spires, turrets, and walls. The Mormon settlers used the canyons for timber and grazing. They named the area Kolob. In Mormon scripture, it means the star or place nearest to God. Famed artist and photographer William Henry Jackson made the first known sketch of the rock towers in 1867 and described it as a most romantic spot. Around this time, the Homestead Act began, opening up settlement in the United States, allowing any American head of household to claim up to 160 acres of free federal land. Some of that land was the unsurveyed Kolob Canyons. In 1929, a local historian, William R. Palmer, built a frame cabin on Dry Creek, now known as Taylor Creek. A year later, in the summer of 1930, using Palmer's cabin as a base, an engineer and geology professor, Arthur Fife, joined a Mormon seminary teacher, Gus Larson, to explore the Middle Fork of Taylor Creek for other cabin sites. Larson chose a spot 2 miles upstream in the shadow of towering Horse Ranch Mountain. Fife selected another spot a mile further. They each staked out 160 acres. Working together, they built similar cabins. They felled trees in the canyons and dragged logs to the building sites. Lumber and shingles were hauled in for the roof and floor. Each cabin 12 feet by 24 feet. The men completed the cabins in the summer of 1931, the same year Larson and Fife surveyed their homesteads. Eventually, a heavy cast iron stove and metal beds were hauled in. According to documents filed in Salt Lake City, the cabins were occupied the next few summers. During that time, they built fences with hopes of raising pigs and other livestock. But plans changed. Palmer abandoned his homestead in 1934 or 35. Fife went to work for the Department of Interior on the Navajo Reservation. And in 1936, Larson went on a church mission to Europe. So the stage was set when in 1937, the U.S. government established the Kolob Canyons area as Zion National Monument. Then in 1956, it was incorporated into Zion National Park. The land and cabins were withdrawn from homesteading with the National Monument designation. The families lost their homesteading claims, even though the Larson family disputed the government's argument that the requirements for homesteading were never fulfilled. Under the Historic Sites Act and the National Historic Preservation Act, the 3 cabins are protected as the only remaining examples of homesteading within Zion National Park. One complication to preserving these historic buildings is that the Larson and Fife cabins now sit in a federally designated wilderness area, while the Palmer cabin does not. Wilderness was defined by the Wilderness Act of 1964 as a place untrammeled by man, where man himself is a visitor who does not remain. In order to comply with the Wilderness Act, the area must now be managed differently than in the past. One of these changes prohibits the use of mechanized equipment in wilderness areas. To preserve the cabins, park personnel now use traditional, non-mechanized techniques to stabilize and maintain what is left of the cabins. Today, the 3 cabins stand as a tangible reminder of a rich heritage and of lost dreams, and as a legacy of the homesteading era in Zion National Park.